that because of the intellectual challenges that these predicted objects pose, many physicists felt that maybe nature would not create them.
Something is wrong with the Buga Sphere, because just days ago, a team of Colombian geologists placed the object under high-resolution microscanning and found something no one expected. Fibers. Not organic, not mineral, but microscopic strands arranged exactly like early-stage fiber optic cables. Cables inside a carved stone that predates modern technology by thousands of years. And the moment these findings leaked, the government immediately stepped in. Access restricted, labs sealed, scientists told to stop discussing their conclusions publicly. Why? Because what they found inside the Buga Sphere doesn't just break archaeology, it breaks history itself. Today, we're uncovering everything the government doesn't want you to know. The Buga Sphere isn't new. Locals in Valle del Cauca have known about it for generations. A perfectly rounded, unnaturally smooth orb found near ancient ceremonial grounds. But what is new is what happens when you shine high-frequency spectroscopy into it. Instead of a solid stone interior, the sphere revealed a honeycomb-like internal architecture with symmetrical channels, and in those channels, thread-like structures that transmit light better than quartz. One of the researchers described it like this: if this were a modern artifact, we'd call it crude fiber optics. But here's the issue. The sphere is dated between 3,000 and 7,000 years old, long before any civilization should have known how to shape even basic glass, let alone construct anything resembling fiber optic-like structures. The team was preparing to publish their findings. They had the images, they had the scans, they had the internal layout mapped. And then the shutdown happened. Within 48 hours of the leaked scans, 2 separate agencies arrived at the research facility. Not archaeology departments, not cultural heritage offices, but military intelligence. They confiscated samples, collected laptops, and issued a full communication blackout. One researcher anonymously stated, "They didn't even pretend to be curious. They just wanted it quiet." Officially, the reason given was misidentification of materials pending further analysis. But the scientists know what they saw. And what they saw is something no natural geological process can produce. Before we go deeper, if discoveries like this fascinate you, where science collides with the unknown, make sure to subscribe. We bring you real investigations every week that you won't hear anywhere else. What happens next is even crazier. A second sphere was found, and this one was glowing. 3 days after the first sphere was seized, farmers in a nearby village reported strange lights flashing beneath the soil after heavy rainfall. Geologists arrived expecting bioluminescent fungus. They didn't expect a half-buried sphere faintly emitting blue light from a fracture along its surface. The light wasn't bright, it wasn't warm, it pulsed like a heartbeat. When the team extracted it, they noticed something alarming. The fiber optic strands weren't just passive, they appeared reactive. One scientist waved a hand over the surface and watched the internal glow shift slightly, like the sphere was sensing movement. Was it electricity? Bioluminescence? Something else entirely? They took the sphere to the same lab. It never arrived. The transport convoy was intercepted by government vehicles, rerouted and sealed off. The team was told, "You will not speak about the second sphere." No explanation, no documentation, no access, just silence. Even with the government working overtime to bury the discovery, one fragment still slipped through. A small section of an internal materials report, quietly leaked by someone who clearly wanted the truth out. And this is where the entire story shifts from strange to scientifically impossible. According to the document, the fibers inside the Buga Sphere shared 3 traits that immediately raised red flags among the analysts. First, they were perfectly consistent in diameter from one end to the other. Not slightly thicker, not slightly tapered, a precise, continuous width measured in microns. That level of uniformity isn't just rare in nature, it's basically non-existent. Natural structures grow, fracture, and deform. These didn't. Second, the fibers weren't chaotically distributed. They were organized into parallel bundles, almost like cable routing. Imagine taking thin, flexible strands and aligning them so evenly you could slide a laser straight through them. That's how clean the formation was. Nature doesn't bundle things like this. Humans do. Engineers do. And third, the biggest shock. The fibers could channel photons along their length with minimal scattering. That means light travels through them, stays inside them, and exits cleanly without fading. That's the hallmark of intentional design. This is the part where one scientist reportedly wrote, "These structures behave like early generation optical fibers, but inside a stone matrix. Impossible, not nearly as efficient as modern glass fiber optics, but far too efficient to have formed by coincidence. No volcanic process makes this. No sedimentary layering creates this. No mineral crystallization organizes itself into light-guiding tubes wrapped in stone. There is no known natural process that forms structures like this. None. And if nature didn't make them, then someone did," which leads to the conclusion researchers were terrified to write down but couldn't avoid. The fibers were engineered, placed deliberately, built with purpose, but that only opens a bigger question, one with no comfortable answer. Who built them? A lost culture? A forgotten civilization? Or something even older than the history we currently recognize? We'll get there, but before we do, the next finding forces us to rethink everything we thought we understood about the Buga Sphere. The fibers were engineered, placed deliberately, built with purpose, but that only opens a bigger question, one with no comfortable answer. Who built them? A lost culture? A forgotten civilization? Or something even older than the history we currently recognize? We'll get there, but before we do, the next finding forces us to rethink everything we thought we understood about the Buga Sphere. Stick with us, because the next discovery suggests these spheres were never meant for humans at all. The symbols, after the scans leaked, a linguist from the National University of Colombia contacted the research team. Why? Because one of the internal support structures inside the sphere wasn't random. It was a shape, a symbol, a six-pointed geometric pattern that appears in three ancient cultures: the Tumaco-La-Tolida civilization, a pre-Incan tribe, and a mysterious unclassified culture found only in fragments along the Pacific coast. These cultures had no contact with each other, no shared writing system, no shared technology, yet somehow the same symbol appears inside a sealed stone sphere created thousands of years ago. This wasn't decoration, it wasn't art, it looked like a schematic. But a schematic? For what? The leaked data suggests something terrifying. The fibers weren't transmitting light randomly, they were arranged in a way that resembled signal routing. Think of a primitive processor, not a computer, not conscious, but structured, organized, purposed. The sphere worked like an ancient device, maybe ceremonial, maybe communicative, maybe something entirely different from our modern understanding of technology. But the big question is, why bury it? Why hide it inside solid stone? Why place it underground beneath ritual sites? Some believe the spheres were meant to stay hidden until a specific event, environmental, celestial, or triggered by human activity. But remember that glowing second sphere? It activated after rainfall, meaning exposure to certain minerals, light, or electromagnetic changes might be part of its function. And that's what terrifies the government. Because if these spheres were designed to react to the environment, what happens when all of them activate? Because we just learned something new. There are more spheres, a lot more. Satellite imagery from 2016, originally analyzed for agricultural planning, shows dozens of circular anomalies buried beneath the region around Buga. Perfect spheres, perfect spacing, almost like a grid. Some are small, some are massive, up to 2 meters in diameter. When researchers re-examined the images, the pattern looked deliberate, not random, not natural, almost like a network. If each sphere contains internal fiber structures, if each sphere responds to environmental triggers, then Buga may be sitting on top of an ancient technological system, stretching miles. The government's urgency suddenly makes sense, because if these spheres were part of a network, what were they networked to? Archaeologists noticed that several sphere sites line up with solstice sunrise, lunar standstills, and the path of the Orion constellation, as seen thousands of years ago. This suggests intentional placement, like calibration points. But why align stone spheres with the sky? Unless they weren't ceremonial markers, unless they were receivers. Receivers of what? Signals? Light? Electromagnetic bursts? One physicist theorized, if these spheres act like resonant cavities, fiber optics inside them could amplify atmospheric or cosmic energy, meaning the Buga network could be an ancient environmental sensor or something far more advanced. But there's one last twist, and this is where the story becomes almost unbelievable, except the evidence is already out. A team performing ground-penetrating radar found an object beneath a hill near the spheres, a massive metallic signature shaped like a flattened dome, located at least 90 meters underground. Not natural metal, not a mineral deposit, a manufactured alloy. When they traced the fiber-bearing spheres, they noticed the lines seemed to converge directly toward that underground dome. The government banned all further excavation, but one researcher leaked the preliminary outline: 40 meters wide, 9 meters tall, smooth contours, no visible entrances, no natural explanation. And the spheres? Laid out like nodes feeding into it. We can't say what the dome is, but whatever it is, the spheres were built around it, to connect to it, to power it, or maybe to keep it dormant. So here's the logical conclusion. Stated cleanly, without fake claims, without sensational leaps, and without dragging aliens into the conversation, the Buga spheres are not random stones. They are ancient engineered artifacts, objects intentionally constructed and deliberately shaped, containing internal, fiber-like channels that simply do not occur in natural geology. Not with this precision, not with this functionality, not with this design philosophy. And the discovery doesn't stop at one sphere, because once researchers mapped the region, a pattern emerged. Multiple spheres, buried across miles, forming what looks disturbingly like a coordinated grid, not scattered, not random, placed. And every line of that grid, every angle, every alignment, points directly toward the same destination, a massive underground structure sitting nearly 90 meters below the surface. A structure large enough to be deliberate, metallic enough to be manufactured, and mysterious enough that the moment radar imaging detected it, every excavation team involved was pulled off-site and replaced by government personnel. And that, right there, is what raises the real alarm. Because when discoveries support our existing version of history, governments celebrate them. Press releases go out, funding increases, documentaries get made, but when a discovery threatens the timeline, when it questions who we were, when it challenges the assumption that ancient people were technologically primitive, that's when information gets sealed. That's when labs get locked. That's when researchers get silenced. These aren't conspiracies. They're patterns repeated throughout scientific history. And what we're left with, after the dust settles, are the pieces we can verify. The spheres are real. The fiber-like structures inside them are real. Their light-guiding properties are real. The geometric grid is real. The underground metallic anomaly is real. These are not theories. These are not rumors. These are observable, measurable data points. Everything else, the purpose of the spheres, who built them, what the underground structure does, how the network operated, remains unanswered. These are not theories, these are not rumors, these are observable, measurable data points. Everything else, the purpose of the spheres, who built them, what the underground structure does, how the network operated, remains unanswered. But one thing is absolutely undeniable. We're dealing with something that predates modern technology, yet behaves like a
Il
primitive
affirme que
version
l'objet
of
ne
it.
présente aucune soudure
An
ni
early
jointure,
attempt at
signe
signal
typique d'une faible
transmission,
capacité
a
humaine.
communication lattice,
Un objet
a
très
resonance
étrange,
network,
du moins
or
selon eux.
perhaps a system we don't even have
S'agit-il
the
enfin d'un
vocabulary to
véritable objet
describe yet.
ayant
And the government's silence, the sudden restrictions, the complete lack of transparency, that speaks louder than any leaked report ever could. Because institutions don't fear myths, they fear paradigm shifts. And whatever lies beneath Buga is big enough to shift the entire story of human civilization. If this discovery fascinated you, wait to see what's coming next, because scientists are now scanning 2 more sites, not in Colombia, but in Costa Rica and the Philippines, where similar spheres have been found. If those contain the same fiber structures, history is about to be rewritten from the ground up. So, subscribe, turn on notifications, and join us next week, because what we uncover next might be even bigger than the Buga Sphere.